Right now in Japan, they plan to lift state of emergency because of the decline of new cases. And right now we have Kun Nad Bunnag joining us with this story.
Hello.
Hello, Kun Nad. So what's the plan in Japan to lift state of emergency?
So an update for all of you guys. So the Japanese government has decided to lift the state of emergency in 39 prefectures around Japan. So Japan has a total of 47 prefectures. So today the government has decided to lift the state of emergency in 39 prefectures. So the reason is it's not only because of the number of new infections that are declining in those prefectures, but Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has to cope with a lot of pressure to achieve their goals, which is to prevent the resurgence of the virus, as well as to revive the economy at the same time. So that is why they decided to lift the state of emergency earlier than expected, because initially the state of emergency will expire at the end of this month. So right now, the decision to lift the state of emergency and the restrictions here is actually going to help improve the economy during this time.
So it means that lifting of state of emergency will not cover the whole country. What about remaining 8 prefectures in Japan?
Yeah, so the 8 remaining prefectures will remain under the state of emergency. So this is because these of the prefectures still experience the number of infections every day. So the prefectures are Tokyo, Chiba, Hokkaido, Kanagawa, Saitama, Kyoto, Osaka, and Hyogo. So the government, although they still decided to remain the state of emergency in those prefectures, but they will reconsider whether they will lift the state of emergencies next Thursday. In the meantime, there will be experts from the infectious disease and the public health sectors. So they will analyze the data during this time in terms of how the virus is still spreading, as well as the overall situation before they actually decide whether to lift the restrictions for these prefectures.
So when the lifting of state of emergency has been in place, people from the prefecture in which lockdown still remain may want to travel to other prefecture. What's the measure or what's the government recommend people to do during this time?
What the government actually advised and recommended during this time is that they are still asking the residents to stay on alert and to adopt the new normal or the new lifestyle, as they call it, such as telecommuting and wearing masks. The government also continue to remind the public to maintain social distancing, avoid crowded areas, as well as to avoid traveling between areas that are still under the state of emergency and those that are not. So let's say if I live in this prefecture and if I want to travel to Tokyo, we're not allowed to do that yet.
Yeah. So it must be quite cautious measures still remain, like Thailand as well, Kun Thepchai, because we've been told time and again that we still have to remain cautious. We cannot let our guard down in fighting with the pandemic.
Yeah, it's a challenge that practically every government is now facing, trying to balance between saving lives and saving the economy. Of course, the Japanese government has certainly been under a lot of pressure from the business sector for the economy to be reopened. As in Thailand, tomorrow we know that the Prime Minister will make another decision on the second round of easing of the restrictions. So this is a challenge that practically every country is facing now.
What about the local people there, Kun Nad? Do you have information? How do people react? They must have felt relief for lifting of the restrictions.
Well, it's certain for those who are living in the 39 prefectures because the restrictions are already lifted. So they felt relieved that they can finally go back to their normal lives. However, the problem is now are those for the people living in areas where the restrictions are still in place, as the state of emergency highly affects their business. Some people are actually becoming tired of complying with the government's request for people to avoid making non-essential outings during this time. So there are still a group of people who are frustrated with the state of emergency here.